Hey everybody, it's Will. I wanted to do a quick video for you today on the new Mk8s. For those of you guys who have not seen them yet, these are Mk8s. Here's one that's fully together. This one's actually sold, but I can just give you a little bit of a demo here. This is a new design from me. Looks a lot like the Mark 7, but there are a number of improvements on this knife from the Mark 7. Things that have changed over to make this a little bit better knife. This one here is an elite model. For those of you guys who are unaware, I have three price ranges. I started this in, would have been, I think either May or June of last year, having three price points, but everything's flat rate. This is the top of the line elite model. This one here has got violet anodized edges, which are textured. I'll just give you a quick close-up of that. And it has a 1400 grit satin finish on the flats here. This is a very high grit satin finish, very beautiful finish on this. This one's got a single bevel tanto on this one that's hand rubbed as well. It's part of the value equation for this one as well. So the Mk8 is, like I said, this is a 3.5 inch utility frame lock. You'll see, of course, no bolster lock going on there. There is some interesting stuff, which I'll get to in just a minute, on the internals to make this a really nice, light, carryable knife, and also has a lot of features that you're not going to find on pretty much any other knife out there. So it is, like I said, 3.5 inches, overall length about 7.5 inches, relatively thin. Now my knives, which this is, again, different from every other knife out there, my knives have got a taper to them. This is my signature effect. They taper from the bolster to the butt, which means that when this is in your pocket, you have the benefits of having a really thick frame lock, but you also have a relatively thin butt end of the knife. So when it's actually in your pocket, it's not like bulging your pocket out. It's not uncomfortable. These carry like a much thinner knife than what they are, but you still get the benefits of having a full 0.1875 inch thick lock bar up here, which, by the way, is carbide plated. This has got an internal stop pin. Blade thickness on this one is 0.125 inches, and on this particular batch I'm working in CPM 154 at 59 Rockwell C, and it's been gone through the actual crucible specs for that on the heat treat, including the refrigeration process for the tempering. So these are really nice knives. They're going to differ in all sorts of finishes and whatnot, but they're all going to have that same steel on this particular run. They're all going to be made, of course, out of 6AL4V, and they're going to have the same specs as far as dimensions and whatnot. So let's put this one here aside just for a minute, because this is a completed one. I want to show you what's going on the inside of these knives. I've got two here that you can take a look at, and these are different price points, of course. This one here is going to be another elite model. You can see, of course, it's highly polished, highly jeweled. This one is going to be more of a standard model. And this one has actually got a slightly different finish. It's been heat anodized and then stone washed and tumbled. So it's got kind of a cool effect to it. It looks very, apocalyptic. That's a real, popular type finish these days. So it's got more of that sort of grittiness to it that a lot of people like. Still going to be a really smooth, really nice flipper. This one's going to get a acid washed drop point blade on it, and this one here is going to have this particular blade, which I'm still in the process of working on. But you can see, of course, this is actually a dagger grind tanto. Now for these knives, again, I'm using CPM 154 on these. It's a good balance, in my opinion, of a steel that takes an edge really well, holds it pretty well, is rust resistant, is easy to maintain, it's easy to sharpen. It's just a good all-around steel, and it's also not super freaking pricey, which, unfortunately, if you go with the vanadium steels, the moment that you go with that, two things happen. For one, the steel itself is more expensive, but for another, it takes 4 times as long to machine it and 4 times as long to finish it. So it's a significant increase in price. And as I found working with the Mark 10s, people will say that they really want to get higher end steels and whatnot, but I've found that a lot of people are not really willing to pay for that increase in performance. On these particular knives, they're utility knives, so I intend them to be users. So I don't know, if you guys want to see CPM S35VN, S30V. Heck, even in this blade stock, I can get more exotic things. I can get Rex M4. I can get CPM S90V. Some of the very high vanadium content steels, and some of the very extremely high wear tool steels. If you want to see that, write in the comment section below and tell me that, because I'm interested in hearing your feedback. But for right now, with what I'm seeing personally in the market, CPM 154 is going to be what it is on this particular batch of knives. So on the inside here, the way these differ from a Mark 7, this is the inside of a Mark 7 frame. You'll notice there are a few weep holes here for the inlay stuff, but you'll notice, of course, that on the Mark 8s they do not have inlays. Instead, what they have is a pocket inset into the frame, and that is to lighten the knife. There's a significant amount of weight reduction between the Mark 7 and the Mark 8. The Mark 8 weighs about 3 ounces. For a 7.5 inch overall knife, I think we're doing pretty good on that, and you're again getting a pretty thick titanium lock bar on that. One of the other things you'll notice on the Mark 7 versus the Mark 8 is the Mark 8 has got, if I can just tap this bearing out of there, the Mark 8 actually has a 45-degree chamfer on the edges. The Mark 7 has a roundover. Now the roundover feels pretty good in hand, but in my opinion doesn't look quite as nice. I like this chamfer look a little bit better. That's just something that's a personal preference. So for me personally, being the designer of the knife, I decided to incorporate that into the knife. You'll still have the same very easy takedown on the Mark 7s versus the Mark 8s. Both of them only have 2 screws that you need to remove in order to take the knife apart for cleaning and maintenance. But please don't do that unless you know what you're doing, and please do not modify my knives from stock configuration. That's my one disclaimer there. The other big difference that you'll see mechanically on this is I've moved from the single pivot design, or a single piece pivot design, which a lot of people didn't like on the Mark 7s. Those you had to keep Loctited with red Loctite, and you had to set quite a lot of Loctite in there. And once you had that on there, you couldn't mess with it. Now, it was a stronger configuration as far as overall strength because it threaded directly into the frame, and it was a reduction of pieces that went into the frame. But on the new Mark 8s, these have got the Stephen Kelly pivots. Stephen Kelly's pivots are now pretty much an industry standard among custom knife makers. They're really fantastic, very well-made pivots. They're a three-piece construction, which consists of 2 titanium screws on either side and a stainless steel, I think it's 3/16 stainless barrel shank. That I typically polish up to a nice mirror finish before I put it in the finished product. And I think it's a fantastic pivot. They're a little more expensive. In fact, they're a lot more expensive than the old style of pivot that I used to use. But in my opinion, they're much more hassle-free. Once they're in there, you can adjust the pivots to your heart's content. It will never give you an issue. The knives will center up perfectly fine. The other thing that I changed mechanically here is on the Mark 7s, they used to have an asymmetrical bearing pocket on it. There'd actually be a little bit more material relieved on one side of the blade than the other, and that would be, of course, matching up to the frame. The reason for that is that, because I had a pivot threading directly into the frame, I needed to have enough space here to thread at least 3 threads into this frame. Because that's no longer a consideration, I was able to actually have a symmetrical bearing pocket on that, and that makes these knives center up a little bit better. So other things here, you'll notice that this particular knife has got a G10 backspacer. That's going to be on most of the Mark 8s. The majority of them are going to be running G10 backspacer and G10 pocket clip. The reason for that is weight reduction. The idea was to save as much weight as possible in these knives. They're supposed to be lightweight and easy to carry. So the design philosophy behind that is to make the knife as comfortable and as light as possible. I really wanted to strive to make that happen on this particular knife, so I went with G10 on the pocket clip and the backspacer. Now, a lot of you guys are going to say, G10 pocket clips, are those going to be durable enough? I'll tell you, in my experience running G10 pocket clips, I've run them on every single knife that I've ever designed, ever since the Mark 12s. The Mark 12s shipped with G10 pocket clips on them, titanium integral frame locks, 5.5 ounces, give or take, on those particular knives. And the reason why was, again, to save weight. I have had in the, let's see, now it's 2015, 3 years since I've been making folding pocket knives, I've had 2 break. Both of those were pretty much the same thing happened, where somebody snagged on the car or on some other object as they were walking by and it snapped the clip off. What I've done to kind of remedy that is the new clips are actually thicker than the original ones, so they should be a little more durable. They're also designed such that they have a little bit more strength to them. They have a chamfer on the sides that's going to provide a little bit of strength. And then beyond that, the G10 pocket clips rather are backed up by a lifetime warranty. So if you ever break one, it's not a problem. I'll replace it free of charge. There you go. I will have titanium clips available at some point, but they're right now, I just haven't made any yet because this is such a new design. I haven't had a chance to really go and build any more. So I'll just show you how this goes together roughly. Of course, this doesn't have the lock bar bent or a bearing pressed in it yet, but I can show you how this all mates up. When you have this blade, of course, you set it onto your pivot. There's an internal stop pin. You can see, of course, that's pretty much what the innards are going to look like here on the non-locking side. Fairly basic. There's not a whole lot going in here. One of the cool things that my knives have, at least my Framelocks, this is again unique to my knives, is they have the integrated over travel stop. I'll give you a look at it there. This little flange right here is actually cut with a little bit of clever machining, and what it does is it acts as a hyperextension prevention measure. I don't have to have extra parts. This is not like Rick Hinderer's solution or various other makers who've copied him, where basically they take a little disc or something like that and mill out a little hole for it. I don't have to do that. There are no additional parts. This is all internal and it's built into the knife. This over travel stop prevents your knife from ever being damaged. There's no way to break it. This is a very actually thick piece of titanium right there. It's about 0.1 inches thick, and it's very tough. I've never had one of these break ever, and I've been running these since the Mark 7s. They work great, and it's a great little piece of technology that's exclusive to my knives. I've yet to see anybody copy it. Hopefully they'll give me credit if they are going to use that piece of technology, but so far I don't think I've seen many people do that, or anybody else do that rather. You also notice that the lock bar relief cutout is on the inside of the knife. Again, that's to keep the whole outside of the knife really slick. You don't want that catching on your pocket and tearing up your pockets and putting excess wear on your pockets. This makes it so that it's a little bit nicer to wear in the pocket. Anyway, we got our ball bearings there. Again, this is a manual action knife. There is absolutely no spring assist in this. This is not automatic. This sets right on here. There are 2 indexing pins in the backspacer here, which this one has got a titanium backspacer. In future designs, I might actually jewel the outside of this. It's not something you'll ever see, but it gives me the warm fuzzies knowing it's fit and finished above and beyond. Anyway, you set it on here. It indexes with the barrel shank of the pivot and also these 2 little pins that are in the backspacer. And again, there's no bearing detent in this, so the blade's going to be a little bit floppy. But then, of course, you just set your screw on here for the pivot, tighten it down, and we take our screw here for the back. Just 1 screw. It only needs 1 screw there because everything else is being indexed and held in place with, again, those 2 little barrel shanks that are hidden on the outside here. So you only ever see 1 screw in the back there. And then this should close right out. Of course, once you have it properly tensioned, the blade sits perfectly center. You can see this has got a very fine tip on it, because this one actually has been hand honed into a 0 grind on the tip there. And once we get a detent in there, this is going to be a really nice flipper. Very smooth. Granted, I'm not doing a great job at illustrating that right now because it's not got a barrel or a bearing detent in there. But these will be great knives, and so far so good. This is this one's going to be the 6th one. This one's the 5th one produced, and I've seen nothing but great results on these. You can see, of course, this is how an assembled one flips very nicely. That's the spec to which I'm aiming for all these knives, is I want them to all flip that good. And this is a knife that you could take your pinky and flip it open like that. I mean, again, this is a manual action knife. There's absolutely no spring assist in these. They're not gravity knives either. They can't shake open. Just a nice detent, and they work great. So pricing on these, they're actually really competitively priced. The base models are going to start at $600. You know, for a custom handmade folding knife with this kind of technology in it, I think is doing pretty good. You know, I've got more premium models available at $700 and $800 price points respectively. The premium models are basically going to have a high level of fit and finish on either the blade or the frame. There'll be something a little bit more time intensive, like a hand rubbed satin finish on the blade, or maybe you'll get this nice two-tone type finish on the frame and something a little bit less extravagant on the blade. And that'll give you a sort of a mid-level price point, and then I've got the full-blown crazy elite custom ones that are $800 and up. Those are usually individually priced. $800 is where they start at, and then average price on that typically is going to be somewhere around $900 to $950. Again, these are all basically built by hand. Lots of technology in this. This is all exclusive to me, and lots of cool little inventions and cool little gizmos going on the inside of what looks like a fairly basic frame lock. But if you understand about some of the technology that's going on in here, you'll understand why this is a little different from most people's knives. Something just a little bit more fancy. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate your time and appreciate all your support, guys. If you have any questions about the Mk8, feel free to ask. And if there's something I didn't cover in here that you want to know about, I'm an open book as far as questions and whatnot goes. If you have any questions about ordering knives, feel free to ask. I do not take custom orders. Instead, what I do is I basically make what I want to make and list it on my website, www.willmooncustomknives.com, and you can get me at support@willmooncustomknives.com if you need my email. And I'm listing knives once every couple of days or so. That may change after the end of April. I might start going back to doing monthly sales. But right now I'm just listing stuff every other day or so as I finish things up. So thanks for watching, guys. Like I said, I appreciate it. And we'll see you all soon. Bye.